everyone. Welcome back to another installment of the Youch Films podcast. We are back with a great new show. Today we have the honor of talking with the brains behind the original Goosebumps covers, Tim Jacobus. How are you, Tim?
I'm good. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing amazing.
Doing great.
Good.
Give a round of applause.
Yay!
So, folks, I'm not going to make this mistake again of forgetting to introduce people. I have my good friend Daphne
Hi.
joining me. We also have Jacob here.
Hello.
And, of course, Bjorn.
Hello.
Bjorn? You there? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. It's a good way to start off with a chuckle. Okay, Tim, I'm just going to say what I've said to every guest we've had. Let's start from the very beginning. How did you get started in your career? Where did your love of art begin?
My father could draw pretty well, and we used to have a lot of art supplies in the house. So drawing was just something that we all did, especially if you were trying to, convey a message or my father used to go, I'm thinking about building this, this deck in the back, and it's going to look something like this. And he would just flip over a napkin and draw. So we would, just draw as a way of communicating. But to realize it as a career, I was 18 years old. I had taken art classes in high school, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't really realize that you could do it for a career. And I went to a vocational school when I was a senior in high school. They let us go there, for half the day. And I was taught by this guy named Frank Neubauer. He was an ex-Marine. He was the most non-art guy you ever met in your life. Smoked cigarettes, flat top, high and tight haircut, had a little bit of an edge to him, was very talented, but he just, explained art as a business to all of us. He taught it very well, and that's when it just caught on, and I never looked back.
Wow, that's awesome. And so it seems you have a love of saturated colors, as they're all over the place in Goosebumps. Where did that come along?
Yeah, that slowly evolved. I mean, as an artist, I have a real love for just the opposite. I love black and white. I fully believe that no drawing or illustration is good unless you can make it work in black and white. And almost always my sketches are, have become, like small digital black and white drawings, because if they don't work in black and white, all the color in the world isn't going to help them. So you got to get your values. Yeah, you got to get your values down and correct before you can add the color. Now, with Goosebumps, again, we got a chance to go wild. We used a lot of interesting color combinations. And the thing that I like to do on the Goosebumps covers were when you had a dark shadow area and you would normally just fill it in with black, we filled it with color. So that, all your dark shadow sides are generally purples and blues, and it just gives that overall richness to it.
Yeah, like for our viewers there, you can see that in the Night of the Living Dummy book and the Haunted Mask up there. That's great. I know. Yeah, noticing all the purples and everything. Something else, just character, I guess, design technique you have that I've always loved is that elongated jaw you give to Curly and the bunny up there and the Slappy. Where did that come from? Is that just something that happened?
That kind of evolved, and it became something that I was, obviously I was conscious of it. I don't know where it happened first. We'd have to go back and kind of, decompile all this and figure out, whether it was Curly who got it first. Was it you have it up on the screen here. I can see the Bad Hair Day. He's got the dropped slack jaw too. So I did it at first so that you could see more teeth and make it a little bit more ominous, so that I could, you drop it down and get you a bigger look inside their mouth. But after a while, sometimes it's ridiculous how far it's down.
Like in Jelly Jam, there, the guy's smile takes up half his face.
But funny thing about that, if you get a copy of my autobiography, there's some photographs of me posing for that picture, and that is a distorted view of me.
I'm gonna have to buy that and check that out.
The coach.
It's a great book. It's great.
Crazy thing about the book, they did a limited run back. This is back in the day. I don't know how many they printed, and I forget what it cost. It was $4 or $5 for the book. Then went out of print, and you could get it on Amazon. I mean, for as little as 25 cents. It was so cheap. There was lots of copies out there. Now it's nuts. The copies have all slowly disappeared. The price keeps going up. I saw it the other day. Somebody sent me a screenshot of it. It was $285
for the original book.
For original, in mint condition. That's
about right.
That's insanity. That is just that's complete insanity. Do not. Yep. I don't care who you are. Do not go out there and spend $285 on my autobiography.
I spent about half that. I spent $164, I believe.
Oh, God bless you, man!
When I bought my copy.
I haven't had an original copy in years. They gave me a handful, and I give them away. And every once in a while, I'll wait and see one go on sale. But I always get the school library rejections. They still have the card in the back of them. And they're stamped, and they have kids' scribbles in them. But those are the ones I end up getting. They're still pretty cheap.
That's great. That's great. That was your autobiography you're talking about?
Yeah.
That was what was that called?
It came from Ohio.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
Oh, New Jersey. Oh, I'm thinking R.L.Stine's.
Yeah, R.L.Stine. Well, basically mine was the follow-up. His was, it came from Ohio. I did the cover for that, and we presented, as Goosebumps got popular, we asked if they thought there would be any interest in doing the same thing, just using my story. The real difference between the books is we wanted to put art in there. I mean, that's what people really want. And the quality of the paper that's in a standard Goosebumps paperback is pretty low grade. So in order to get the higher grade paper, we had to cut the number of pages in half. So normal Goosebumps 100, 120 pages. Yeah, my book's somewhere about 60.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, it must be very flat.
Cool.
That must be very flattering that so many people are interested, going as far as to pay over $200 for your autobiography.
All this. Here we are. It's 2017. Goosebumps has been, around for a long time. That's astounding, number one. Number two, you guys are asking me to come and talk with you. This is I never get over it. This is not something that I take lightly, and I'm so appreciative of this, and I can't believe that people are still interested in the artwork that I've done.
Totally.
Yeah, it's timeless.
Apparently, it is. I don't mean to be flippant about this, but part of it is lost on me. Like, I like my work, but I'm not crazy about my work, and that's what drives me to keep doing more. Is I see the flaws. My favorite painting is always the one I'm working on or the next one. So especially, I can tell you guys aren't kids. That's who these books were originally geared towards. I went to a school the other day. It was, fifth graders, sixth graders, kids who are 11 and 12 years old. That's who's supposed to be interested in this. I think it's great that you guys still find this stuff cool.
Yeah, it's like the gift that keeps on giving,
Goosebumps is life for me.
That's what's so crazy about this is that, like, you think it's crazy that these, I guess not kids anymore, are contacting you years later, but it's like, as kids, this is what we grew up with. Like, this was our source of scare as, like, you know, elementary schoolers, at least for me. So it's crazy now being a teenager, you know, going into adulthood, and I'm talking to the illustrator that, you know, created or helped to create these books that I read when I was younger.
You pretty much like made people read these books with these covers.
Yeah.
Well, I know that Goosebumps was a gateway drug to horror for a lot of readers. So we can get off of it, but yeah, I am completely flattered.
Actually, I kind of have another question. How did you get involved with R.L.Stine?
I had been working with Scholastic for maybe 4 years prior to that.
Oh, wow.
I had done a bunch of mystery books, and the mystery books I did a little bit of distortion, a forced perspective stuff, and they kind of liked. And again, the colors were there; they weren't quite as extravagant because our market. They were called the mystery books were the section was called Women in Jeopardy, and they were geared towards the housewife market, and so they had color to them, and they were some pretty good. They were actually some pretty interesting books. But when Goosebumps came along, they just they didn't pick me right away. They picked me and one other guy at the same time, and they weren't really sure how they wanted the covers to go. They were really unsure how younger kids were going to accept R.L.Stine's work. He had already established himself with the older kids. I did book 1. This other illustrator did book number 2, and they luckily, for me, they picked me. And at the time, I only thought that there was going to be 4 books altogether. So. It wasn't like I won this giant prize. It was like, oh good, I get to do 2 more books. That's awesome.
And then which one was the first? Was that was Welcome to Dead House, right?
Yeah, Welcome to Dead House was the first one. The other artist, his name's Jim Thiessen. He did Stay Out of the Basement, and the following 2 were I think Say Cheese and Die, and I don't know. My memory's not that good.
I've always wanted to ask this, but it's been nagging at me for quite a while. Something that I've always wanted to say, like if I ever got a chance to interview, are there any alternative artworks that you have done for some of the Goosebump books that no one has like ever seen before?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, every one of them. The process was R.L.Stine was writing the book at the same time I was doing the cover. He would give me everything from a page full of information and as little as a couple of sentences about what the book was about. I would work with the art directors, and we always did 3 different illustrations or 3 different sketches for every single book. So yeah, so there's.
Oh wow!
I should say there's generally 3. Sometimes there was only 2, but there's an arsenal of alternate versions of these covers out there.
Wow!
Is that
Will we ever get to see them?
I released a couple of them. Somebody reached out. I sent some sketches. They released them not too long ago on Facebook. As time goes on, I'll have to dig them out. They're in files, that are tucked away in the attic. They're pencils on pencil sketches on tracing paper. So it'd probably be in everybody's best interest if I do something digital to them before they break down.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, of course.
That's
So awesome.
Actually, that leads me to another question. Like, were there any that they like refused to use? Like, that you cannot put this on a book or something like that? Were there like? There
were some certain unwritten rules. they wanted to be careful that, I mean, monster blood was green, and we could show all the monster blood we wanted, but there was no red blood. And
Yeah.
so that was out. You know, that was not going to happen. And we could do a lot of things with the characters, but you know, you didn't ever see a kid getting hurt. They could be scared, but they weren't getting hurt. The only one they ever called me out on, that where I actually turned in the painting and they sent it back to me and said, "You have to change this," was the Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes.
Oh yeah.
If you can dig it out real quick and take a quick look, there's two gnomes sitting there. One of them's standing there and he's got his hand on his hip, and the other one is scratching the side of his head. Now, the gnome who's scratching the side of his head originally was picking his nose. And they, you know, everybody thought it was funny, and it you know, and they liked it, but then at the last minute, I don't know who decided that that wasn't the way they wanted to go. So we pulled it out of his nose and stuck his finger on the side of his head.
Now, was that when it was already painted, or did you have to?
Yeah. That was painted, done. I sent it in. The original Goosebumps covers were 20 inches by 20 inch illustrations, acrylic paint on board. I would paint them, then we pack them up and send them out Federal Express and send them into Scholastic Publishing. They would then take it over to a photographer who specialized in shooting artwork for book covers. They would, you know, that was a regular process. I mean, today everything's different. Digital is great. There's the steps go so much faster. I'm working with a client right now in the Netherlands, and you know, as fast as I can draw the stuff, they can see it, they can approve it. We can change stuff on the fly. The process is faster, and that helps things a lot. It's a lot more fluid, and because I mean, there were only so much you could do with a full painting and change it by the deadline. I mean, you know, there were times where I had to repaint a background a different color, not on the Goosebumps stuff, but for other books, and that takes time, and a lot of instances you didn't have that luxury of time, so you had to get it out, and people would just, you know, learn to live with more stuff. Where now in the digital world, you change it all right up to the very last second.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, you do most of your stuff. It's all digital, right?
Yeah, currently it except for the stuff that I like to do that's, you know, fine art where you're actually, the end product is supposed to hang on the wall. It's all digital. You have so much more control. Everybody has more control. I'm not sure how many publishers still like to deal with any sort of traditional art, because it's time consuming. You know, you got to be careful of shipping. I mean, we ran into that where you send a painting through Federal Express and something goes wrong. That painting's going to get damaged, and sometimes they got folded in half, and you had to reconstruct them and fix them, and it was crazy. Yeah, it was tough.
Ew.
So, my question here is, you probably heard of R.L.Stine before Goosebumps, right?
I'll be perfectly honest, no is the short answer. I mean, I knew who, I had heard the name. I didn't know anything about him.
So what was your first impression of him when you first met him?
You know, it took a long time. That's a big misconception that people have, that illustrators, book illustrators, and authors work together side by side, and it's not the case. Illustrators work with art directors. Writers work with editors. Editors and art directors pass along information. So you're always like 2 steps away from one another. I mean, he's doing his thing, and in most cases, and with most writers, the book was long done before they got a hold of me to do the cover. Now, R.L.Stine, probably hands down the most prolific writer there is, and still is today, was just he was just putting them out as fast as he could, and we were racing to keep up with him. So
I like it actually.
It took 2 years before I met the guy. We were doing, I had done 24 covers for him, and yeah. So I happened to be in Manhattan, and I heard he was going to be speaking at this open public event, and I was like, hey, you know what? This is an opportunity for me to at least see the guy in real life. Get to this event, and it's packed, and it's I don't want to say it's a bar, but it's a club type atmosphere. And I saw that there was 2 walkways along the top, and I said, well, if I can sneak my butt up there, I can at least get a good view of the guy. So weasel my way around and finally make my way up to this balcony. And so I'm just hanging there waiting for him to come on. And the friend that was with me elbows me. It's like, Tim, look, right next to you. And I look over, and Bob Stein was standing right there. So I introduced myself. He was great. His wife's a wonderful lady. We've been friends for a long time. We don't spend a lot of time together, but I have been with him. I've been to his house. The last thing that we did together, which was just a riot, was we went to Canada for a comic book convention, and in Calgary. And one thing most people don't know about him, and a lot of people are starting to know about him, is he's a great horror writer, but the guy's really funny, and he's dry funny. Yeah. And you sit there for 3 days signing autographs to people, and the stuff that he says is, my sides hurt. My sides hurt.
We were talking. Oh, I'm getting some. Sorry, folks. I'm getting some feedback here. All right, never mind. I'll move on. We were talking with the puppeteer who played Slappy in the film, and he's saying how there was one time he got to meet Mr. Stein, and it was during one of the school scenes, and Avery's the guy's name. He walks up to Avery, and I think Avery was holding Slappy, and he just looks at Slappy and looks at Avery, says, "Oh, you must be the puppeteer." And Avery said he said it in this way you couldn't tell if he was joking or if he was serious.
Exactly. It's deadpan, very straightforward. He again, very funny guy. Very funny guy.
Yeah, I had a question.
Go ahead.
Would you ever consider doing an alternate cover for the original Night of the Living Dummy? Maybe the same exact artwork, only this time featuring Mr. Wood on the cover.
That would be cool. That would be cool. I'm game for all that stuff. It's not that I don't. Somebody said, "Oh, aren't you over this? We thought you didn't want to do these things anymore," and there's no truth to that. Doing Goosebumps stuff is fun, and I hadn't done any Goosebumps art, or Goosebumps characters for years. I mean, I've done stuff that kind of looks like it, but when the movie came out, they did the soundtrack album.
Oh, the Waxworks vinyl, yeah.
Right. So I got a chance to do the cover, and then I got a chance to do the fold-out double spread inside, and that was just it was like visiting old friends. It was a blast.
Yeah, I got to revisit Curly on the front of that.
Exactly, and my ambition on that one was to create something that that some original fans would look at and go, wow, that looks like a long lost Goosebumps cover. That wasn't just created in 2016, but something that could have been from 25 years ago.
It should have been the movie poster.
That would have been great. That would have been great. Well, I'm really happy I got a chance to have a little something in the movie. They didn't reach out and contact me until way late in the production cycle. So I didn't think I was going to have anything to do with it. They were getting the end of the movie and the closing credits together, and if you guys have seen the movie, I don't know. At the end of the movie, Jack Black is walking by a glass case with some trophies in it, and his typewriter, and something happens. For those of you who didn't see the movie, and then he turns to the camera and lets out a scream, and right at that moment, he morphs into a Goosebumps cover. Now, the guys who were, putting this special effect together were not happy with the image that they were creating to look like a Goosebumps cover. And finally, one of them said, "Oh, maybe we could reach out to Tim and maybe he could do it." And, no kidding. Obvious answer that there could be. And but they had, this was August, and the movie originally was slated to come out in October. So it was the end of August. It was a real rush job, but right at the end of the movie, morphs into the Goosebumps cover. It is literally on the screen for about a second and a half, but my artwork made it into the movie.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
What was it like?
Awesome.
Oh, sorry. What was it like seeing the original paintings animated on the screen?
See, yeah, here's a good story. So, the guys who were doing the special effects, I'm working with them, and they were like, "Oh, gee, thanks for doing this artwork. This was really great. We got a surprise for you." Now, I didn't know what they were doing. So they just kept saying, "You got to see the movie. We got a surprise for you. You got to see the movie. We got a surprise." So we were lucky enough to get a trip out to California for a screening. Me and my son Jack. My son is 18. He missed the first go around of the Goosebumps thing. So Goosebumps to him is his old man telling him, "Oh yeah, you should have been there. It was really cool. Goosebumps was great." He just rolls his eyes, and so we go out to this screening, and they get us a seat, and right there in the front, and so we're watching the movie. I thought the movie was great, and then just before the end of the movie, they came and got me because I had to. They had some prints that I had to sign because there was a charity auction, and I also was going to get a possible opportunity to meet the director, the actors, Jack Black, and so I had to get up from my chair and go do that. So again, I missed it. The end of the movie came, and I missed the credits. Now, my kid being, the wonderful child that he is, he comes, he's like, "Dude, you missed it. You missed the best part." And I'm like, What? And he's like, "I'm not even going to tell you. Now you got to wait until you can see it again." So I still never saw it. I had to go home and had to buy a ticket and go to the movies on a midnight show before I finally saw the end. So making a very short story long, when they animated those, that was just, I thought that was so cool. I thought that was just such a great effect. It was, to see my art move was way cool.
Yeah, I think it's really impressive how they animated that so smoothly and fluidly, and still kept the original look of everything.
Feel. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I didn't know any of it. I didn't know they were going to do it. All I knew is they kept saying, "Wait till you see, wait till you see." So. Yeah, I think out of anybody who's gone to see the movie, nobody was more impressed with that than me.
Yeah.
I noticed online there was a second draft of the script that got leaked, and originally they were going to have like that sort of thing at the end of the movie with all the original covers, but actually for the opening of the movie.
Oh wow! No, I didn't see that.
It's somewhere online. Cool.
Yeah. Huh.
It's somewhere on there. You'll find it.
All right, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Back to the poster. Someone, I think Bjorn, you mentioned they should have done something.
Yeah, like that would have been really cool. Like even if you just did like maybe the characters, like if you actually did an original art of like Stein and Hannah and Champ, like, you know, with the other monsters, of course, you know, like for the poster. I thought that'd be
Right, and yeah,
a really cool idea.
Do it in original style. That you know, well, you know, you guys keep saying that because hopefully there's a second movie and maybe somebody will catch somebody's ear and we can all make this happen.
Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with Drew Struzan, the guy who did the Indiana Jones posters and Star Wars posters.
Yeah.
Drew
Something like that. That'd be, yeah, Drew Struzan, however you want to pronounce it. Yeah, I think something like that would be awesome. So I guess without further ado, we probably can't get through all of the books here because there's just so many. When was the last? What was the last book you did for Goosebumps?
It's actually one no one's ever seen before. In the series 2000, I'm going to say book 27. It was, you know, it was the theme behind it. I don't even remember what the title was, but it was like the incredible shrinking fifth grader or something like that. And it's a picture of a kid. He's got a giant pencil in his hand on the edge of a desk, and he's fighting off a white rat from the class. So I had actually finished the artwork, and they called me up and said, "Okay, listen, we're going to pay you for the piece. It's not going to press, and that is officially your last Goosebumps cover."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How was that?
What's that?
Why was that?
Everything comes to an end. As an illustrator, it's completely unheard of that you get on a series that goes. I did 107 covers. That's insanity.
Okay.
Mostly as an illustrator, you do one cover and then you get fired, or you do 3 covers and you get fired. I mean, I've been fired. I've been fired hundreds of times. But with the Goosebumps one, we kind of knew it was winding down. I just was caught off guard that it would end as abrupt as it did.
Yeah, that's.
I had. Oh, sorry. You go.
Oh no. It's fine. It's fine. Go ahead, please.
I thought I was looking at the live on stage like artworks. I mean, obviously you did all those different artworks of like Slappy looking through the curtains and the actual Screams in the Night book cover. I wanted to ask, did you ever get a chance to actually see the stage show?
No, I didn't. For that, I didn't get the opportunity. I can't remember if it started. I think they started. My memory's not as good as it should be, but I think it started on the West Coast. So if it was on the East Coast, I think they would have let. I live about 50 miles outside of Manhattan, so getting in and out of New York City is pretty easy. But if I remember right, it either wasn't. It didn't start there. It might have took a West Coast spin first. So no, I never saw any of it.
Oh, that's a shame. I've got the photograph.
What I would have liked to have was this past summer they did a Goosebumps show in London in the vaults, which are these underground catacombs that were around during World War II as kind of like bomb shelters. And then, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, they were just places where drug addicts hung out and crime went on. And now they're slowly reclaiming these areas, and they become these posh, restaurant areas and underground, just cool places. And they actually had they took a portion of it that was still a little rough around the edges, and they did a live Goosebumps show, except it was geared towards the grown-up Goosebumps fans. From the images that I saw, it looked like Goosebumps meets Clockwork Orange, and it just looked like a way fascinating show. It had a little darker spin to it than some of the other stuff, and it was a audience participation thing where you would get a guide, and the guide would take you into this thing, and there would be a group of you, maybe a group of 20, and you would experience different things, and different things would happen to you. It seemed pretty cool.
Wow, that would have been so fantastic to see.
Yeah.
Did you know about that one, Bjorn?
Yeah, I saw something about it. I even saw like a soundtrack for that show, like online. And yeah, it was pretty interesting. But yeah, obviously living in Australia, I wouldn't have got a chance to go see it.
So as I said before, we probably can't get through all the books here, but I just wanted to.
I actually have one kind of further question. Just before we get to the. Hold on a second. What was actually the hardest book to design for?
Oh yeah.
The one that was a little difficult, and we ended up bailing out on it, was in the 2000 series. It was these creatures from outer space, and the idea was we were going to do one painting, but we were going to use it for 2 covers. So it was almost like a wraparound book cover. And
Invasion of the Body Squeezers.
Yeah, Body Squeezers. That's it. And for whatever reason, we planned it out as best we could, and they ended up only going with a single cover on it. So we never did a side by side, and that always presents its own set of problems. I do a lot of wraparound book covers, so the right hand side of the painting goes on the front of the book. The left hand side of the painting goes on the back of the book. Everything has to be coordinated and composed compositionally, to compensate for a lot of text on the back of the book. So they're always more of a pre-plan. You got to really get your stuff together early on, and then execute and hope all your math is right, because you only get one shot to get it right.
Yeah, and then they were in the film, weren't they? The aliens. They were in.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. All right. Does anyone else have any further questions?
I just thought maybe you could tell them your idea, like for the Goosebumps sequel, with it being the covers, and like how Tim could actually fit into the story. Like, if you want to tell him.
we were talking about this last night, and Bjorn and I are just we can't stop thinking about the sequel. Because they just released the release date for it, and then they pushed it back.
Right.
You probably heard about that, right?
I did.
Okay. So we were talking about that last night, and I was saying how it would be cool if there were like 2 different portals for the monsters to escape. If they could escape through the actual manuscripts, and if they could escape through the actual covers, like the real covers.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then, the monsters could escape through the covers, and they could get into the Scholastic archives and terrorize New York. I think that'd be really impressive.
Absolutely.
And Tim, they go to find you.
Yeah. I don't run as fast as I used.
And then you can tell the kids, you got to go to the Scholastic Co. in New York to find the original, paintings and destroy them.
What?
You could definitely, that is a pretty solid idea. I mean, you could see that working from a visual standpoint, like that would work.
Yeah, like Slappy Takes Manhattan or something. This is kind of a on the spot question, but let's say something like that did happen, or something similar where they had to get someone to play your character. If you weren't up for it, who would you want to play you?
That's actually what I was about to ask.
Yeah, God, who would play me?
I mean, they got Jack Black to do R.L.Stine, so who would you like to play?
So what I would do is I'd get the real R.L.Stine to play me.
Or you could get Kyle Gass from the Tenacious D. The other guy. That would be.
HSD reunion.
Oh,
Yes, in the Goosebumps sequel.
that would be great. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions?
I have
No.
one.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Daphne.
Okay, so I was really curious to see what other works you had done. So I looked you up on Wikipedia and I only found Goosebumps and Teletubbies. And I was wondering, what other scholastic things did you illustrate for, and how do those styles, differ when you're doing paintings? Like, is there any sort of technique that you have to use differently, like when creating these fluffy, springtime monster people versus, the more disturbing images in Goosebumps? How does that differ?
You, that's a good question, because right there that's as far of each end of the spectrum as there can possibly be. Is
Pretty
Goosebumps
much.
on one end and Teletubbies on the other end. There is a funny story to that. The Teletubby work came a little later, late in the Goosebumps stuff. It might have even been when Goosebumps was winding down. And I don't care. I just like drawing. I don't care what it is. I mean, Teletubbies. Now that's scary. Those are frightening. The whole thing is frightening. The whole thing is disturbing.
When
So
I was a baby, I used to be so afraid of that vacuum.
I can,
Yeah. Right.
I can take
The vacuum scared me.
I can take Goosebumps any day, but Teletubbies.
I'm telling you. So they were going, well, we have this guy Tim Jacobus. He might be good for this. And they're like, I don't know. His name sounds familiar. Who is he? And they said, yeah, you know him. He's the artist that did Goosebumps. And they were like, oh no. We do not want him coming to paint our cute little Teletubbies, because he's going to turn them into monsters. And so it came down to where I had to actually do a sample piece for them to prove that I could paint a little Poe in the right way to get the gig. I tell this story when I go. I speak at schools every once in a while, and I always tell them that I had to do the sample for the Teletubby, and I went ahead and I painted, a Teletubby that met Goosebumps, and it's got fangs and horns, and so that's always a big hit.
A big elongated jaw. With big...
That's the only thing. That's the only thing I didn't drop in there was the elongated jaw.
The Jacobus jaw.
Oh, that actually made me think of a book cover you did for another series called Dead Time Stories.
Dead Time Stories, Spine Tinglers, and Bone Chillers. So everybody was knocking off Goosebumps, and I didn't have an exclusive contract with Scholastic, and I'm out there to make a buck just like everybody else. So I was my biggest competition on the shelves.
Well, I noticed the cover for the book Terror in Tiny Town. If you guys look it up on your screens, the character. Did you take influence by Chucky?
Oh yeah.
He looks a little, yeah,
absolutely. And they said it was a Chucky story, and they said lean as far into it as you can without getting in trouble.
So it's almost Chucky.
Exactly. It's Chuck.
Yeah. Charles.
Just looking at that face, I'm looking at the cover now, just looking at the face and thinking, oh, Charles is a good name for that guy. Okay.
Strange minds think alike.
Any other questions before we move on?
No, I'm good.
Daphne, Bjorn?
Good.
I noticed the retro tins they brought out had the original like illustrations on your artwork. So did you pick up one of those?
As a matter of fact, I have. It's been a lot of years since I worked at Scholastic. I have a friend who still works there. She's my inside source. When they came out with those tins, she grabbed a couple of them for me. So yeah, I have two of them sitting right on my table. I'm hanging on to those. Like you said, it's the original work. I kept them sealed. So yeah, those came out real nice.
And the cool thing is they sold out very quickly as opposed to the new covers. I'll tell you that.
I went to this opening for the movie, and I'm expecting to see some kids there, and the theater's full of late 20s and early 30-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the new age group.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, Bjorn, because goes back to a question I wanted to ask, but I completely forgot about. Tim, what was it like, being around in that time? You're creating all these characters, and you created Curly, and just seeing all the merchandise that comes from your designs. What is that like, seeing it on the shelves every day?
Yeah, it was a quick ride, because it was a quick from 0 to 60 transition. It started out at the time I didn't have any children, so I even didn't catch on real quick. I knew it was doing okay. I knew they were selling because everybody was happy, and you knew the people you're working with were happy. And I was like, all right, well, great. And it wasn't until I went over, some friend's house, and they're like, well, what are you working on these days? I said, I'm working on this series called Goosebumps. And they all fell out of their chairs going, what, are you kidding me? My kids, they're out of control over it. Oh my God. And then when you just go to the store and start to see, your stuff showing up, and, cardboard cutouts of the characters, and
lunch boxes and t-shirts.
Lunch boxes, yeah. It was all very cool.
Did you ever just want to go up to someone and say, "Oh yeah, I created that"? But then,
no, really, this is mine. No kidding, this is mine.
Then they look at you.
Exactly.
You're crazy.
Get out of here, you crazy dude.
I actually had one other question about some of the artworks. I just got to head into the other room. I noticed some of these other artworks that have popped up on a lot of the different merchandise. You've got Slappy, you've got the Mummy, you've got Curly, but they look just like this. I'll just quickly get it up. Artworks they had on these designs. Were they yours as well, or were they a different artist?
So what happened was we were working as hard as we could to stay up just on top of the demand for books, special edition books, calendars, all that stuff, and they needed to have some line art that they could start to use everywhere. So they actually subcontracted that out to another whole group of people. I don't even think it was one guy. I'm pretty sure it was a number of people to do that, because they just, it was, like I said, it went from 0 to 60, and they needed a lot of stuff, and they needed it quickly. So, that's how it ended up that there's a little bit of a disconnect between the some of the promotion artwork and the original covers.
They haven't released any merchandise off the movie, which I'm sure this is all something we're well aware of, Bjorn especially. I'm still really hoping that maybe one day we'll get some original action figures based off the original designs from the books. I think that'd be so cool.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That's great. Yeah.
I think a Gentle Giant. I'm just picturing the the rabbit. Wow, what I forget what his name is. The guy up there in the corner with the jaw. I think that'd make a sweet statue. And then, well,
it's funny until you just mentioned it. It didn't dawn on me that there isn't any merch from the movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There was some, but a lot of it was more just sort of like the promotional merch or things you'd win, like competitions and stuff. And I mean, but
It was puny.
I just got lucky that people were selling it online. Like they win something like a competition and they go straight on, and then they sell it for this ridiculous price. But knowing me, I bought everything that I possibly could. And but with the few things they did
you do the cell phone thing at the end of the movie and get yourself in the drawing for the possible Goosebumps painting? Did you hear about that one?
Oh no, I didn't hear about that one.
Yeah, so they did something that not too many people, the technology was kind of new. So at the end of the movie, if you held your cell phone up, it did it read a card, it read either a reader card or something, and it somehow took your information and entered you in a contest. Now, the winner of the contest was going to get an original piece of artwork from me. So I agreed to this. It was a separate company that sponsored this. I said, yeah, I'll do the artwork for me. But what I didn't realize was what the idea was, and Jordan, you really dig this, is not only did you get an original piece, but I had to put you in it. So
that's
so the winner, so the woman, it was a woman and her two kids who ended up winning.
That's nice.
Yeah, they have it's Slappy, dressed up as like a 1940s movie director, and he's in a dilapidated, broken down movie studio, and the film's peeling out of the camera. But as the film gets up towards the front part of the illustration, that's where the image of the three people are in the cells of the actual film.
Oh,
Wow.
Nice.
That is so cool. Could you still do one for me?
Sure, why not?
Oh, that would be so awesome. That would be going on a frame on my wall. Oh, that would be the coolest thing.
Oh boy. All right. This whole conversation is just going really well. Yeah, they didn't release any merchandise. It was really sad. We were all hoping they would release some Funko Pops. Are you familiar with those? The little.
No.
Okay. Well, it's really popular. They're all the hype right now. So a bunch of people were hoping that they would get to release some, but
to be like how it was back in the day, just everything of everything you could possibly get,
pencil holders to lunch boxes and T-shirts and hats.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what we expected.
Yeah, Sony really missed the mark on that, but that's a whole different conversation.
I don't know. My opinion, I only because I think they weren't sure. And I got to say, I'm as guilty too. Is I was unsure of the Goosebumps movie. Like how it was going to play out. I mean, I knew there was interest and I knew there was material, but I didn't know if it was going to play. If it was going to play out. And I was wickedly pleased. I sat there and I was like, wow, this is different. This is a way different spin than I thought, but this is really good. So I think they were probably caught off guard, thinking that it wasn't going to be as big of a hit. That's just, I don't know shit about movies. So That's just the ramblings of an old man.
I don't mean to put you on the spot because I'm sure this is something very personal to you, but what would you rate the movie on a scale of 1 to 10? How many stars would you give it?
I give it. I thought it was. Yeah. See, that's right. You're right. It's not even fair because I had artwork in it, and they did a mini tribute to me at the end. Where am I going to not tell you it's a 10? Well, how big of a douche do I have to be to not think that was great?
I'll give it like a 7.5. I could have had an extra half a second of artwork in there.
Oh, they missed that one piece. Oh, I hate this movie. Oh boy. Okay, so any more questions?
Nope.
I can tell Ezra's eager to just move on to the next topic, aren't you? You're like, okay, let's talk about each individual book, every page.
I just wanted to get through as many books as we possibly can, and just have you share something. Whether you have a funny story about it. I know there was one. It was the Terror Tower cover where I heard you mention that in some other video where you were rushing to get that done in one night, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a 1 day. That was a 1 day piece of art. Generally, it would take in the neighborhood of 30 hours to do the painting portion of the illustration. And that month, there was a lot of books that had to go out that month, and you got time to make that deadline. And that's something that I think most people don't realize, that the deadline aspect of illustrating it's one of the most dominant things in it. A painting that's late, nobody, they don't want it. If you hold up production or screw things up, you're not going to work very much. The idea that it's due on that day, no matter what, is a real thing. So it's a silly business. I paint pictures of monsters, but I got to get it done. It has to be the most important thing to me. And so that one, got up in the morning, started painted into the evening, wanted to go to bed at 2:00 in the morning, but kept right on painting, cut some corners here and there, just to get it done. I look at it and there's things I would have loved to, work a little harder on, but, and that morning packed it up, hopped in the car and drove it into Manhattan and delivered it. So
that would have really sucked if you had to redo that one.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't call out.
2 hours, Tim. 2 hours.
That's right. Nobody called me out. So yeah, lucky me. Yeah, that would have really sucked. Yeah, go home and do some more.
So if we could just go through as many books as we possibly can, the original ones, of course, the from the start, and just have you share some. It doesn't have to be some big long story, but just like a little fun fact or a little funny memory you have. So I guess Welcome to Dead House would be first, and that was the first one. What kind of memories do you have of that? What was your idea going into that?
It was. I think I've mentioned this in other interviews, so this isn't going to be a bombshell or anything. When I did the original Goosebumps covers, again, there was a certain level of apprehension by the publisher, or they were simply trying to save some money. I didn't even get paid full price to do the first Goosebumps cover. It was a reduced fee, but I looked at the whole thing and said, this looks like fun. I don't even care if it's the usual rate. Let's just do this. And who would have thought? I'm telling you, there was nothing said to me. There was nothing about it that I didn't have like this premonition that, oh my God, this is going to be big. This is going to be none of that. It seemed like fun. And that was the driving force.
And I think that's the best way to go into any project. It's just not big headed about it, just really humble about it, not expecting it to go anywhere. And then it's it's an even bigger surprise when it does take off and it does.
Oh, absolutely.
Really well.
Yeah. If we took I've done maybe 300 book covers, and some of them a couple of series. Nothing that compares to Goosebumps. But if at the beginning of any number of them, and you would if you said on the very first book, pick the one that's going to be the winner. I don't think I would have been hard pressed to be picking Goosebumps to be the champ that it was. I mean, what are the numbers now? 380 million books. The number's ridiculous.
Some crazy number.
I'm just going to go back really quick to the I guess standard questions, for lack of a better term. I'm looking at this picture, the one you used for your book, not Stine's.
Yeah.
And I notice a pattern, just like the elongated jaw. A lot of your characters have this buzz cut, this green or purple buzz cut. And where does that come from?
So back in the day, I mean, if you got a copy of my book, back in the day, I wore my hair real long. I had the I had the big hair rock star, haircut. We were deciding for Goosebumps, we needed a character. And this is when, the idea of Curly was being formed. Mm-hmm. And the first character I did, we used the art. He's on a special edition book. And he had super long hair. And it was a skeleton head type creature, but he was a ghost for his body. And
it was what?
Yes, more tales to give you goosebumps, or do a little search. You'll find them. There's a blue mansion in the background, and there's this long-haired character. So I turned it in, and it was lukewarm response. They're like, we can't tell if it's a guy or a girl. This character's halfway between a skeleton and he looks like a ghost. And, we want to use this character in a million different places. We want him to do whatever we want him to do. If he's got to ride a bicycle, he's got to be able to ride a bicycle. And, we need to convey that. So the only thing that I saved is the slack jaw. And I gave him a nice flat top butch haircut. And, we turned him into a skeleton, and that's how Curly was born. And then, that flat top butch haircut, that just started to come into play. Again, if I wanted it to be a male character, then flat top is the way we're going, high and tight.
And then, what about his, what was it, his dog?
Right, Curly became so popular that he got his own mascot, and through a reader's poll, the kids named him Drool.
Oh yeah. You created him, right?
Yeah, it was he was like a bulldog.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. And then did you give Curly the glasses, or was that someone else? Because I noticed in a lot of your pictures, I never really see him with glasses, but it's more
I didn't put them on. Yeah, they did. They put glasses on him. That's a good question. I did artwork for a stand-up, like a bigger than life size cardboard cutout. And that one he might have had glasses on. I'd have to. Again, if any of you guys right there, I don't have a copy of it. My book, inside of it, there's the Curly cutout. He might have glasses on. So,
Bjorn, is that the one you have in your room?
Yes, it's in the other room, the old school Goosebumps room.
You got everything.
But another thing about that haircut, it's slowly changed into a pink ponytail.
Yeah, that I didn't do. That yeah, that was the secondary art people. They did that. I wasn't opposed to it, but my curlies never had any ponytail.
All right, so well, I just wanted to ask that. It's something I've always wondered about the character. So let's go back to the books.
Real quick. So just
oh yeah,
because you touched on that original piece of artwork. So I used to get letters from kids, and a kid, described that scene to me. Oh, I always thought you were a monster living in the basement, doing the painting. Now, the thing that's kind of cool about that is the artboard, the little table that's there, the airbrush.
Oh yeah,
all the stuff that's in there are my stuff. That's what my stuff looked like, and I put it in there. So that was my original work area. It wasn't in a basement, and there weren't metal pipes around me, but that was my desk, and that was my compressor, and that was the paint dripping off the table, and so it is somewhat authentic.
wow. And then what kind of creature is that? What his face look like?
That's a good one. I have no idea what he looks like. That's we'd have to flip him around. That's a whole thing in itself.
Yeah, I'm imagining an elongated jaw, but then how did that work?
Be the trope here.
He's been sitting still so long. He's even growing mold on his shoulders.
Oh boy, yeah, that's a great. I think that's one of my favorite pieces, even though it's not technically a Goosebumps cover. It's because it summarizes like what it's all about. It's a monster. It summarizes what you were all about at the time, I guess. It's you're not a monster or anything, but just the saturated colors, painting, and the haircut and everything is. I think it's perfect.
And the other thing about it is this is the only Goosebumps artwork that I own.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this one wasn't part of the original contract. So basically the way it worked for illustrators is you would paint the painting, you would turn it over to them, they would photograph it, they'd hang on to it for 6 months, a year, and then they'd give you your artwork back. Goosebumps, once we got into it and it was really rolling, they decided they were going to pay, they paid for it. They paid extra money, and they kept all the artwork. So, at the time, it didn't seem like a big deal to me. Now that I'm old and, this is, and I'm very nostalgic, it would be nice to still have access to those paintings. Some of them I haven't seen since the day I painted them.
Do you ever plan to ask Scholastic if you can be reunited with the paintings, even for a short while?
If you're not from this area, a couple of years back, we had a huge hurricane come rolling through here. Oh, yeah. Hurricane Sandy, and it wreaked havoc everywhere. Here at my house, and parts of Manhattan were seriously flooded. There was a rumor that was going around for a while that all the Goosebumps art was destroyed in the flood. I
heard about that.
Yeah, and the more I thought of it, I was like, wow, this is, that has possibilities. Again, rumors are rumors, but I was like, I know they kept, a lot of artwork in storage in different places around Manhattan. I mean, there was places where the water got incredibly deep, so it wasn't, it was a real possibility. Anyway, then somebody said no, it's not true, but I didn't know anybody who actually saw them. So that friend of mine, who's my inside mole, who got me my tins, did see all the artwork. So the artwork still exists. She said she saw it. She physically saw it herself. So I'm glad to report that they are still there and they still exist.
Oh, that's a relief.
Beautiful. Good. That's good.
Now, does Scholastic ever like display any of these, like even in like the building, or do they keep all of them in storage? Because that'd be a real shame.
They when Goosebumps was popular, they were around. People just if you've ever been to a book publisher, there's art everywhere. That's just the nature of the thing. And back in the day, everything was traditional, so art was everywhere. There was hundreds of pieces of artwork in everybody's office. So yeah, the Goosebumps paintings were around, and you could see them, and they were hanging. Now what goes on there? I couldn't tell you. I don't know of any shows. I don't know of any times where this stuff goes out. I know they have to photograph them occasionally to get some prints. But yeah, to say I know what they're doing with them would be a lie.
That you mentioned that, and I was thinking, and maybe this would be a total mistake, but I think it'd be really cool because there are so many of them. I think it'd be cool if they did a tour and they, you could.
I'm with you. I think there's enough interest in it. There's again, totally. there's a huge arsenal of paintings. I mean, I'm sure that all of them aren't there anymore. I'm sure over the years a few have disappeared. But even if there was 80% of them, that's still 80 paintings. That would be a cool show to take on the road.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Scholastic would make a pretty penny with that.
Yeah, I think it would be good publicity.
For sure.
And, like I said, I think there's enough interest too, where that could be an interesting thing that you take around, you go from place to place, and that would be fun to be part of.
Yeah, for sure. Moving along here, I'm looking at all these. I looked up all the books on Google, and it just lets them right away in order. It says Stay Out of the Basement was second, and then Let's Get Invisible was third, right?
Oh, okay. Yep.
Okay,
that was Monster Blood was 3, I believe.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I've got the list here in order.
Okay.
Oh, okay. You want to run us through them then?
Yeah. So we got Welcome to Dead House,
right?
And then obviously Stay Out of the Basement, and then we jump straight into Monster Blood.
All right, Monster Blood. Yeah,
got to be one of my favorite covers ever.
Yeah, that was fun. Again, this was our first, our first foray into doing something bloody that wasn't bloody. Only can be green.
As long as it's green.
That's right.
Now, I've always wondered this. Ever since I was a kid, seeing those glasses sitting on the stairs there, I've wondered whose glasses are those? What happened to that poor child? Are those Curly's glasses, perhaps?
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is, I know they're there, and I know I put them in, but again, there was not. I didn't get that level of detail from R.L.Stine at that point. Like I said, he was always early on in his thinking and in his creative end of things. I knew the title. He can't start writing until he figures out what the title is. So he would get the title together, and then he would, I'd get a lot of rough information. Sometimes there was detail, but for the most part, the little things that were in there, I was taking artistic license.
Yeah, I love the colors in that. I think the green on the red and the brown, it looks beautiful. So Bjorn, which one is next then? Because apparently the list I have is false.
We got Say Cheese and Die, and it's a funny thing. I've heard things about that cover that originally the book didn't actually have anything to do with a family of skeletons.
That's absolutely true. So I didn't know this so much. Yeah, I didn't know this until years later either. Until I was with Bob and he told the story. So again, I'm working with art directors. They're like, yeah, we're going to do a family, going to do a family of skeletons at the table. And all right, cool. So I'm putting it together, and so yeah, R.L. sees it at the end, and he's like, yeah, nice artwork, but none of that happens in the book. So he said he had to go to the oldest trick of any writer, and he had to write in the dream sequence.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, the dream sequence.
So Say Cheese and Die 2 was. I guess my question is what was there any original art for that book that didn't make it, or any of these?
What with the hamsters?
The Say Cheese and Die.
Say Cheese and Die. There's it'd be just varying. There would always be the same characters. They would be in different positions. I don't have another. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to go back and dig in there to tell you exactly what was in there. But usually it's just that it was always the same elements. They were just in different positions.
Okay. All right. Bjorn,
then we got Curse of the Mummy's Tomb.
Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. Yeah, that was that was fun. There was something, I wanted to do that whole stone and circle pattern behind the dummy. Make that bullseye style composition, and then set the dummy in there. So that was something that I had planned on all along. So I would spend as much time thinking about the backgrounds as I did the foregrounds.
Yeah. And they had my elementary school way back, and they had that one as well as a few others. Most of them are always sold out. But I managed to get times the person on Zoom, I believe, and it's my favorite to this day.
Very cool.
Gun.
Number six, we got Let's Get Invisible, so we've now reached that.
So Let's Get Invisible. That's the one with the kid in the attic?
Yeah, with
Looking
the
in the mirror?
mushroom haircut.
Yeah. So, depending on which copy of that book you get. So I turned it in, and let's see. I don't know if you can see it. So they wanted to make it scarier, and they wanted to send it back to me to put in some more spider webs and spiders in the mirror. And for whatever reason, we were too behind schedule, and they said, never mind, we're not going to send it back. Because, again, it was a whole thing. You had to pack it, send it Federal Express, and all that stuff. And somebody else with colored pencil or something drew on the artwork themselves. So that's one thing that always bugged me about that piece is there's somebody drew on my painting.
And just think, what if they messed up?
Yeah,
oops, all over here. I have to do it again.
And and it wasn't like I didn't. It wasn't like I was giving them a hard time and don't send it back. I'm not touching my artwork. They just thought they could do it quick and easy, and they did. I mean, it got done. It's just not very good.
All right, we now reach one of the holy grails of Goosebumps book covers. Night of the Living Dummy.
Night of the Living Dummy. Yeah, you can't go wrong. Yeah, I mean, even still, I mean, I guess if you look at it, I mean, that's the beginning of the Slackjaw, because the way that mannequin dummy's mouth is, it does drop straight down, and so we started there. Also, the little tiny pinprick pupils in the eyes. That's that always give it that psychotic stare.
I always thought that it represented like, seeing as though it wasn't Mr. Wood, that maybe like that was the moment where he woke up at the end.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're thinking too much into it.
Like even that green mist, like maybe it was Mr. Wood's spirit.
There you go.
I'm just gonna pause 1 second. We're picking up that. Jacob, is that from your end?
I'm not. Shouldn't be.
All right, Tim, I think it might be from your end.
Okay.
See, that wasn't a problem.
Yeah, nothing's different here.
Is that better?
Whoa. Did you take your headphones out, Jacob?
Yes.
Okay, can you put them back in?
Okay.
Yeah, I guess we'll roll with it. Unless Tim, if you have any headphones or anything you could plug in.
Oh, okay. Let me give me a minute.
Okay.
That was weird.
Daphne, do you pick up any of this?
I can hear all the feedback, but I've had my mic muted anytime I'm not talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed. All right. Can you hear us okay?
Give me a second. All right. Is that better?
Yes.
And it was me.
Thank you so much for doing that. Now, where were we, Bjorn? We were on book
Number 8, The Girl Who Cried Monster.
Yeah.
Girl Who Cried Monster. Yeah, so I think the original story to that was he was supposed to R.L.Stine wrote it a little rougher, and they had him take it down a notch. I think he actually was going to eat the kids.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think in the story, doesn't he eat the turtles?
Yeah, it's the little baby turtles.
Yeah.
No, that's so sad.
Oh my.
They couldn't put that in the episode. No way.
Yeah, no.
They changed that to spiders.
All right, is moving on then, I guess.
Yeah.
Welcome to Camp Nightmare. That's always been one of my favorite covers. That one.
So Camp Nightmare is the one with all the people walking in the line.
Oh, you've got the green tent. You got sort of Saber.
Oh yeah,
like,
right. And the
opening it up.
monster hand. Okay. Yeah, that the single hand using that as an element is great. Just anytime you got a hand that's reaching out, and plus the use of color there, the green and then the deep reds in the sky really work off of each other.
All right, next one.
Ghost Next Door.
Ghost Next Door. I think that's our first. I mean, we really changed the perspective on that one because you're looking straight down, and I think this is our first introduction to putting the Converse sneakers in the painting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Converse. Yep. Which Goosebump book, like, from which point was when it sort of like really took off and became like you had to have that deadline of a new book out, like getting them out really fast. Like, from which book did that actually sort of?
Yeah, that was pretty early on. I would say, we did the first 4, and then there was a little break, and then they said, okay, we're gonna do 2 more. So we got the so we were at 6. And from like this point on, like book number 6 on, then it was, we're doing this once a month and we're going to start cranking these out.
Awesome. So pretty much from Night of the Living Dummy, it just sort of.
Yeah, that's the way I kind of remember it. Is there, from that point on, there was no breaks, and then there were special editions worked in there and a few others. So it was it caught on quick. It started up, and I mean that it went for 10 years.
Wow.
All right. So we've now got to. Oh, okay. Very, very big fan favorite now. The Haunted Mask.
A Haunted Mask. Yeah.
I love the colors in that one.
Yeah. The Haunted Mask, behind the Haunted Mask is my goddaughter, Jessie. She's a doctor now, which makes this all that much more funny. I told her, hey, you're going to be, you want to be on a Goosebumps cover. She was like, wow, yeah. Told all her friends she's going to be on a Goosebumps cover. And so I brought her over the house and took out my camera and then handed her a mask and said, okay, put this over your face. And at that point, she realized no one ever was going to recognize her on the Goosebumps cover. So, the running joke is, you see that horrible face on that mask? That is nothing compared to the horrible face going on behind the mask.
Oh no!
So yeah, she was wickedly upset, but luckily that became a big seller, and I was able to get a bunch of books, a couple cases, and send them out. And she could give them out to her friends and prove to them that was the top of her head on that Goosebumps cover.
Was she wearing the purple shirt and overalls?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh. I think every kid in the 90s was wearing the overalls.
I'm looking at the wiki, and it has like a cover art versus like the original painting. The original painting actually looks a bit more creepier with the way it's lit over the original cover art.
Yeah, it was a little less saturated. They pumped it up, but yeah, a little less saturated.
Yeah, but like I said, the way the saturation on the original made it look a lot more creepy.
Yeah.
All right, where are we now? Be careful what you wish for.
All right, be careful what you wish for. I did not do that cover. There were two in the series. Very first one, and be careful what you wish for. I forget what happened. I went on vacation or something, and they just needed the slot filled. So a different artist did it. I don't know who they were. Years later, they let me go back, and I did redo Stay Out of the Basement and Be Careful What You Wish For.
Oh, that's right. The 2003, 2005 editions. That's right.
And I think it's really impressive because I think the original "Careful What You Wish For." Look, maybe I'm thinking of yours, but I'll look it up right here. What is yours? Did yours have?
So there's one with a crystal ball, which is the original, and that's the one I didn't do. Oh, actually, I take that back. There's one with a girl in the background, and there's two hands in the foreground of the crystal ball. The one I did is more of that overhead look. There's more of an older woman holding the crystal ball, looking up at you.
Yeah, you got Clarissa. Yeah, it's Clarissa on the cover, holding the crystal ball.
Yeah, I guess looking at it now, not quite as much. I guess just the saturated colors, it makes it carries a strong resemblance to your style.
Yeah. I think it was somebody who had worked on some of the other R.L.Stine covers. They had done either Fear Street or Babysitter's Club. Or it was somebody who was well established and well known. So they got themselves a good cover.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what do we got now? Piano Lessons Can Be Murder.
See, that I thought would be was going to be really hard because there's not much going on there, and I couldn't cut the hands off and make them all jagged and nasty, and so again, that distorted perspective, and just got some good lighting going on that one, and I like that one. I like that one a lot. It's simple.
Yeah, I've always liked that the idea of the I think it's just the gloves playing the piano.
Yeah, it's just the
But,
hands, and
yeah.
they're cut off like they're gloves. Very clean cut on the hands.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Now, the Werewolf of Fever Swamp.
Oh, that's a famous one.
Yeah. Yeah, just went for the idea was, just come up with my best version of a werewolf, and don't let the werewolf stand on its own. And of course, if it's a werewolf, you got to have a full moon in there.
Yeah.
But the again, it's the color, it's the greens. It's the lime greens against the blues and purples on that one that really makes it pop out.
Kind of reminds me of American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, and that there, that was the idea that that's scary enough on its own. There, you don't have to play much with that. Just do the best wolf you can do, and it will carry.
Yeah, I feel like I feel the same about this one. I do with Monster Blood, where you have the glasses in Monster Blood, but you have the clothes scattered around.
Yeah, the t-shirt and the hat. Yeah.
Yeah, in this one, and I think it's just like that, just that wondering feeling. I guess like you don't like who is that werewolf? Who is behind the? I don't know how to put that, but it's just that I guess ominous.
Yeah, so for a book cover, and you're a kid, you walk in there, something's happened. You look at that cover, and something's happened, and it's probably not good, but that's certainly something you're going to pick up and want to take with you.
Yeah, for sure.
You've got Will Blake behind the werewolf.
Alrighty.
You thought it was no.
The kid in the book? Is that what his name was?
Yeah, Will Blake. But then you got that hermit and the Grady.
Oh, that's right.
Thinks it's the weird hermit guy,
yeah,
but
hermit.
But it really is just his friend. All right, what do we got? Oh, You Can't Scare Me. This one actually, the cover used to creep me out of this one. It was one of the first ones I saw as a kid, like when I was only 5, because I grew up on Goosebumps because of my cousin he grew up, in the 90s, like the prime time of Goosebumps, and I remember that was the one right on top of the pile in his bedroom, and it used to creep me out, that cover.
Yeah, I like this one. The Mudman, there's just something, that's bad news. Yeah. It was fun. There was the texture. I like that there's multiple guys, in different depths of mud and muddiness, coming out, and plus that one's all warms. So you got the yellows, the oranges, the browns, and that he's got crap dripping off of him. I like that. Yeah, I like that piece.
Oh, next one's famous.
Oh, we got One Day at Horrorland.
Oh yeah.
Potential Goosebumps sequel right there.
Yeah. I think my favorite version of that, I saw there's a guy out there who has this tattooed on his leg, and that was my first Goosebumps tattoo that I saw. That's more astounding than people still being interested in my art. The fact you want to put it on your body and keep it for the rest of your life, I don't want to do that, and it's my stuff. So
I don't know if you know this, Tim, but I actually have the Night of the Living Dummy tattooed on my back.
You do?
I do. I do.
Well, God bless you.
8 hours of pain, but beauty at the end of it.
How'd it come out?
It turned out really good. The guy who did it was actually a really big Goosebumps fan.
Awesome. That's all that matters. If it came out good, then that's great. That's great.
I mean, I would take my shirt off and show you on the back of it, but
Bjorn, what book number was Deep Trouble? Because I had Tyler wanted to know about that.
Deep Trouble. Which book number? Top of my head, what is it? Um,
I'm about to find out. 19 actually, so we're pretty
19.
close.
Yes, 19, and then 20 was Scarecrow. Yep, that's right.
All right,
Actually,
so
pretty.
look, it's coming up then, I guess. All right, which one was next?
Well, I'm afraid of bees.
Oh yeah, the cover
It's obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, that's as straightforward as you're going to get. B-boy head. It was actually, if you look at it, it's not quite just a bee either. It has way more spider-like qualities to it.
Oh,
The legs.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, we tried to combine stuff, but it's the yellow jacket wasp striping that helps that one stand off from the background.
Well, hey, he has the flat top there. Maybe that's what Curly looked like before he passed away.
Yeah, maybe.
He was a bee before he was a skeleton.
All right, what do we got? Oh, the next one, very iconic Goosebump monster, Monster Blood 2. We got Cuddles.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
See, I
That
really
was
like
a
this one.
marketable
Yeah, anytime we got a chance to do an animal, I just liked it, and again, got your slack jaw is into play here with the teeth, and I busted out of the cage. I used to as a kid. I used to raise mice, and none of them got that big.
Well, thank God.
Well, then they didn't have them on. They didn't have a horrible oozing substance to deal with.
That's right. That's true. I wasn't feeding them the right stuff.
Yeah, I'm noticing again. You have another reoccurring pattern within the covers is the checkered tile, whether it's on the
Absolutely.
floor, the ceiling. I love that. I've always loved that.
Yeah, we tried, and I played that up because I was always trying to distort the perspective to warp stuff, and the more of the square pattern that you can bend and twist, the more twisted the room looks. So
Yeah, you don't even have to touch anything else, just the ceiling, and it just makes everything look off.
yeah,
I just got to point out that that's another book where a kid nearly got eaten.
Man, R.L.Stine has issues.
exactly. Can't blame me for that.
He loves entertaining kids, but he loves having his characters eat them as well.
Yes.
All
right.
The cover of the next book,
Oh.
Deep Trouble, looks as if some kid is about to be eaten.
Or yeah, I thought it was like some. I guess not necessarily a kid, like some like teenager or swimmer or someone. I don't know. But yeah,
It's a kid. Yeah, it was actually a friend of mine's kid. We brought him over to the house here. I had him kind of propped up on a ladder so I could get a low angle of him, and shot a picture of his legs so I could get the that good lighting on there. And and nothing. There's nothing as nasty as a hammerhead shark.
what was was there much inspiration behind that? My friend Tyler, he couldn't join us today. He's a regular on the show, and he just wanted to know as much about that as possible because it's a really personal one for him.
Yeah, I just knew I wanted to do the underwater where you only see part of the kid. You don't see his face, so there's not that fear on his face, or there's not that drowning factor, which I know I would get in trouble for. So the fact that he could be completely unaware of the the horror that's going on below him. So that's a good way to set the stage.
It's kind of got that Jaws feel to it.
Yeah,
Where
exactly.
she's swimming and doesn't realize underneath, there's this giant shark.
And then the hammerhead is just just did a little research and look them up and find out it's just that whole eye positioning thing is just freaky. The whole thing is just freaky.
All right, next up we have The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight,
Scarecrow Walks at Midnight.
book 20.
Yeah, scarecrows are great. We used to make dummies. Growing up, you put them out at Halloween time, and there's just and you've seen a number of them. Back in the day, you used to see them in fields, and the longer they'd be out there, the more tattered and worn they would get. And with this one, I just like the. I didn't invent it, but the idea that it's just like a burlap bag for a head that's stuffed, but you can still make out the details on his face. And then
the animation for that in the film was actually really, really cool, I thought.
Yeah, that one moved nice.
End credits.
And then with the extra warm light that's there in the foreground, that's kind of lighting up the bottom right hand part of that, the oranges and the reds really pop out on the black.
Now, while we're talking about the Scarecrow, because that was one they adapted into the TV series, while we're on that, what did you think when the TV series first came out?
Again, I thought it was great. It wasn't, they didn't ask me for help but I would turn it on. I won't lie to you and tell you I watched it every week, but I would turn it on and see how in episodes how close they would come to my artwork, and then how at times they would go off on their own and come up with something very cool as well.
Yeah, and it looks like
that got me thinking. Yeah,
and we're running a little short on time here. We got probably about maybe 15 more minutes.
Okay.
Then that'll hit the 2-hour mark. Wow. So how many books do we have, Bjorn, left to go?
Well, that was book 20, so we got another 42.
Oh.
Quick.
Well,
just say one word to describe each book.
Exactly. Well, we should cherry pick. One of the ones I think is one of my all-time favorites. It's one that's a little later on. It's just a good horror illustration, and that's Camp Cold Lake.
Oh yes, beautiful. That's a great. Yes, I love that one.
Oh, with the woman poking that out.
Yeah, the level of water, the reflection of the skeleton face in the water, the boat in the background. I don't even know what number that is.
That had me scared of going in the lake for a little while, because I was always scared I was going to be swimming, and then I'd see this skeletal lady poke her head out and then just go back under the water. That always freaked me out.
Again, that's kind of one where the saturation is changed on the cover. I'm going to turn it to cover art.
And it does. Yeah, it
makes it slightly less scary on the cover art.
Yeah, and then see, I never had control over the color they used in the border as well, and that had a huge influence on how the artwork looked, and like in that particular book. I mean, I think the original covers, it was darker. It was just like a purple and a beige, and then when they did the second printing, they did the framing in pink. So it's a completely different look of the two books.
I've got to just point out, out of all the books, the one that I always found to be one of the most eerie was the Night of the Living Dummy 2 cover, because you have what looks to be just this innocent-looking little girl's room, and then you have this thing plastered in the middle, sitting at the edge of the bed, this really big puppet, just with his mocking jaw and everything. I always thought that was such a creepy, eerie cover.
And you have the stuffed animals looking at him in terror.
Yeah, exactly, and they got a look on their face.
Creepy.
What's the story behind Chicken Chicken's cover?
I was about to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I'm not really sure what the only thing that I could tell you about that cover that's somewhat notable is they printed it backwards. They flipped it. So if you look close enough on the original cover, my name is printed in reverse because for whatever reason they thought it looked better, moving from right to left instead of left to right.
Oh. Yet something else.
Oh.
You signed about every one, whether it was in the cover or not, right?
Yeah, all the artwork is signed. Like I said, the original artwork was 20 by 20 inches. I'd sign my name at the bottom, and my signature was 3 or 4 inches. So it seemed small, and we started to hear people go, "Oh, that's so cool! You're hiding your name in the covers." And so I started to hide my name in the covers, like really hide it, and make it something. And then I realized how stupid that was from a promotional point of view, because they're not putting my name in the book. Now I'm virtually removing it from the cover. So I got away from that real quick.
They
started to sign.
They didn't put your name in the book?
No, they didn't in the first series, but I didn't get any. I got no credit in the beginning. At some point, they started to put my name on the in the inside, but for most of the series, my name wasn't on the books.
Wow, that's a shame.
I mean, you mentioned about the red Converse shoes, and I noticed like on the cover of Monster Blood 3, How I Learned to Fly. You've got what's the story behind the red Converse?
All right, so the art director said, like they thought that was cool. It's like you said, it was there was a whole bunch of reoccurring secondary themes in the Goosebumps book. We talked about them all: the warped tiles, the Converse sneakers, the butch haircuts. Now, the Converse sneakers, the story goes, when I was in high school, they were the best sneakers you could buy. We all wore them. Every one of my friends wore them. I wore them to death. One thing about them, though, if you don't keep buying new ones, they get smelly really fast.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And my mom used to just get on my case. When are you going to get rid of those stinking sneakers? She said to me once, "Someday you're going to have to get a job where you're going to have to wear real shoes. And you're not going to be able to wear those sneakers anymore." So the running joke was, well, here it is that many years later, Mom, and I sit at my house and I still wear my Converse sneakers. So I would buy every time a Goosebumps book came out, I bought a copy for my mother, and so she had the full collection on her shelf, and I'd bring them down, and she she'd look at them and she was always, "Oh, that's that's great, that one, oh, that's cool, that's scary, that's this." But every time the sneakers were on there, she would be looking at it and go, "Oh, that's a great cover." And then at some point she'd then go, "Oh, and there's those stinking sneakers." So the real reason why those Converse sneakers are on all those Goosebumps covers, it's easy. It bugged my mom.
Another thing is, you mentioned before about how when the TV show was on television, you'd like to see, which best adaptations were to your original artwork. Attack of the Mutant, the original illustration that you did, looked very close in the
that was way spot on. Yeah, that was really good. We talked about it earlier. The Mudman, the creatures that they did for the Mudman. You Can't Scare Me cover were pretty good too.
Yeah, it was great. It would be great to see when the Goosebumps sequel, which villains we will get this time around.
Yeah, and hopefully Rob is a little bit more experienced in his craft. It seems like in the first film, it seemed like not to diss Rob or anything. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great director. I don't think he knew what he was doing to an extent, at least to
Yeah, I'm
as
sure.
far as
Yeah, I'm sure he
Goosebumps
didn't
goes.
know the stuff like you guys know this stuff. But again, again, it will be interesting to see where they take it next. I think they got off to a great start, and it should be it should be cool. It should be cool. Well, what you guys
The rumor
think
is
of,
that it's either
what you
going to
guys
be
think of them using Jack Black?
I wasn't too keen on it at first, but then I saw the movie. I thought some stuff really worked. I thought he did a really good job, and then there were other scenes where it just wasn't what it could be. I think he had that seemed like almost kind of a British accent, like a soft overtone, or some kind of speech tone.
Effect, yeah.
Yeah, so there was some of that stuff I didn't like, but I think he did a great job. I hope he comes back for the sequel.
Yeah, I hope he does too.
just a few little things.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they first talked about it, I thought it was a huge mismatch. Only because I know R.L.Stine, and they're not. There's nothing about Jack Black and R.L.Stine that are similar, but his caricature I thought was good, and there was a couple of very funny moments that are pure Jack Black that worked very well in that movie.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Definitely.
I think
Definitely.
it might have helped with promoting too, because when you think of Jack Black, at least when I think of Jack Black, I think of like iconic, funny dude, and it's like putting him in a Goosebumps movie, like what?
Yeah,
For promotion,
Yeah, a good. Yeah, I mean he's a well-known name. People like him. I like him. I like 99% of what he's done. And he is going to draw in the non-Goosebumps fan. The guy who's got a couple of kids who wasn't a Goosebumps fan. Was wondering who to go. Take his kids to the movie. If he knows Jack Black's in it, he's going to take his kids, and his kids are going to like it, and so is he.
Yeah, I think he did a great job as Slappy too. I mean, the guy who puppeteered him, Avery, as I mentioned before, I think he did a really good job as well. I liked his voice. It wasn't as menacing as Jack's was, which I think in that regard, I think I'm glad they went with Jack. Just I guess for that scare factor, because it was definitely a lot gravelly. It was kind of gravelly, and it was deeper.
Yeah.
I felt like Avery Slappy would have suited for like a Horrorland sequel. Like you could just imagine his Slappy voice saying something like "Step right up to the doom slide," like he has that kind of voice, like if he was running a theme park,
Yeah.
Like it'd
I
be a
think
good
that'd be
Slappy
great.
voice for that scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, like with one of those straw hats on, the carnival hats, and the striped, red striped.
Yeah,
suit. That'd
yeah.
be great.
Well, now
Like,
you're
it
making
suited-
me think of like an auctioneer, like going once, going twice.
He'd make a good auctioneer as well.
Yeah, all that.
He could
Well, and-
sell the manuscripts.
Yeah, and movie 2, I thought, which would have been really cool, like being that Slappy would be brought to life with the magic words, and like maybe the lawn gnomes are actually destroying the gardens. Like, I thought would be really cool.
Yep.
Just little things like if they just added in, but at the same time though, they're obviously taking orders to trap Stein and.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. I mean, you look at a few things. There was a few almost detail type stuff that you could have turned a few things up, but overall, I was real happy. I thought they did it justice, and I mean, the thing that R.L.Stine talked about this as well. Is this is something that he's lived with. It's his creation. Me too. I mean, I've been a big part of this, and you just didn't want it to get damaged. That was that was what you hoped for the most.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. Like they did their own thing. they took it in their own direction, and I'm real pleased that they've taken the brand and moved it forward.
It certainly did its job. I mean, like, before the film came out, like, I would always notice the Goosebump books on the shelf sort of sitting there. But then after the movie sort of came out, after that first week, I remember going back to the bookstores and they were just gone.
Yeah.
The movie books, they were just gone.
And I mean, and that's, we're talking about it here, but to me, that's that's one of the coolest things to this is Goosebumps books, and this is more of a tip of the hat to R.L.Stine's writing. Got so many young boys to read. Like there wasn't a lot of books that were for boys, and I mean, when I was growing up, it was comic books, and this was just a whole nother genre, and the fact that kids would just wait and devour the stuff is a great thing. I mean, being part of teaching not teaching, but giving kids something to read is great, because reading is one of those few things, and it gets tougher and tougher now because everything is gone. We got a lot of visual media, and things that force you to use your imagination. That's that's wicked cool.
Yeah, and especially those amazing covers you did. I would flip through the books, like I would flip through every one, even if I knew it was hopeless, trying to find another picture.
Yeah,
exactly right. It was the covers that got me into them for starters. Like I looked at these covers and I honestly was mesmerized, and that's what got me into it. And we went straight down. Like, here I am, 5 years old. We went straight down to the bookstore. There was a Scholastic bookshop, literally a 20-minute drive from where my cousin lived, and my parents just bought me 1 to 62, flat out, all 62 books in one go. Like,
you look at him and you think, oh man, I like that character. I like the way he looks. I like just this whole tone here. I want to know more about it. Or he's slapping. You think, oh wow, that's so cool. I want to know more about this.
Like, who else did this? Like, if you were reading a Goosebump book, would you just front and just giggle and then like go back into the book? Like, you just wanted to go back to the front, be like, oh, this is so cool, and then go back into the book. Like, would you be flicking back and forth? Like, I used to just always do that when I was reading. Like,
that's great.
I used to do that as well. But folks, that about wraps up our time here. Where can people find you today, Tim? Like, do you have a website?
Yeah, timjacobus.com. We're going to be revamping the website soon. I'm on Facebook. Just, I friend just about everybody, unless he's.
I already friended you.
Oh, there you go. Did I accept you?
I'm not sure. Not yet.
All right, I'll get on it. But yeah, I try to include everybody there because that's the easiest place for me to get my artwork up in a timely fashion. I'll have I got some more pieces. The problem is I finish a lot of artwork and then I'm forced to wait for the client. Like, I can't be the one to be doing the first release. So there's artwork that I have to sit on waiting, for the client to put it out, or we try to do simultaneous releases. I got a couple of cool pieces that I'm working on right now for the country of the Netherlands. They do a children's reading week in the fall, and it's a nationwide thing, and they promote it big. And this year's theme is Shivers, so we're going straight Goosebumps style art and with an Amsterdam feel to it. So
wow,
I'll get them out there as soon as I can.
That's great. And did you guys have any other questions?
Nope. I think I asked everything that I had.
Daphne?
I think that's all.
Alrighty. Well, I would like to thank you, Tim, for joining us. I'll put the link to your website down in the description. It was amazing. It was an amazing pleasure talking to you and getting insight and hearing about your experiences and your stories. And everything that happened, back in the day with the books and covers. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was a good time. You guys are a lot of fun.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Woo!
I'd also like to thank my co-hosts Bjorn, Jacob, and Daphne, and to all our viewers who are watching this now